Interesting times we live in, for sure.
That is for sure. Yep. And part of the interesting time might be, what if your perfect partner lived right next door to you?
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Thank you. You and I are very smooth at this, right, Barry?
Indeed.
I think it's going to be a really fun conversation that might go in directions that nobody's going to expect, because I think
Including
this is a conversation that people are needing to have at this point in their lives.
Indeed.
Barry and I would like to welcome you to the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast, #1 internet singles.network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
So lately, I have had a number of clients and people that I've just chatted with on Facebook who keep saying, I live in this building that has 500 condos, and I'm really nervous about talking to anybody, because what if I dated them and it didn't work out? And then I'd have this person within the building that I broke up with. Or what if I belonged to this fun singles group and I dated somebody and it didn't work out? And then I couldn't go back to the group. But then people keep saying, how come it's so hard to date now? And I said, because we used to be surrounded all the time by our target market. We used to be surrounded by people in our neighborhood that were our age group, and in school and at clubs and at work. And now here you are complaining that you're surrounded by all these people that are single and in your age group, and you say you don't want to date them. You don't want to go out with them because you might break up with them and then you could never go home again or go back to this group. So that's how this topic came up with. And Barry and I are going to address it today, right?
The thing I want to talk about, though, is it's interesting just from personal experience, because besides the living next door is, what if you work together? That's an even more top topic, because I did that in my very early 20s, just to be clear. It's not happened for a long, long time. Yeah. But I remember the experience of that, like burning bridges feeling. Mm-hmm. Like, you had the great connection, and then it's like, once that breakup happened, which is kind of inevitable, it seemed like, we had to like walk in separate hallways. We couldn't cross paths anywhere without sort of, that evil look, that burning stare. It's like, so I understand the idea about being in proximity to somebody who inhabits a place close to you physically as well. I think I want to expand the conversation beyond that perimeter, because that seems a bit confining. But I do understand the feeling of that. If it doesn't work out, then what? Mm-hmm. But of course, ideally, you want to enter in a relationship for the reason why you want to enter it, not for the reason why you want to leave it. Just to be clear as well. That's not on the teaching as well.
And with that in mind, if you talk about how you enter a relationship and you want to, if you're going to leave it in the same way, could you both enter it as adults, not teenager, which is what happens when we talked about the chemistry, which is what happened last week. We talked about if you enter in the chemistry, about the connection when you enter, when you're still leading with your teenager, then probably the odds are you're going to leave as a teenager of all huffy and hurt feelings, and we can't even speak to each other anymore, which is exactly what happened when we were in school and we did break up with somebody, or maybe when you broke up with somebody at work and you were both feeling very teenagery and hurt feelings, and you couldn't be very adult and say, gosh, I'm sorry it didn't work out. Could we still work together? I mean, sometimes people can even end up being friends after they've broken up. So that's the part to think about should you really eliminate 500 possible? It's not all of them were single men, but it really was funny when she said, oh my gosh, there's 500 people. It was really a big number, and that you belong to a group of people that, it's a group of singles that there's 50 people, and you can't even sit next to somebody and have a conversation because you're concerned that what if somebody sees you talking to them, and boy, you've talked to somebody else. And I've been there. I've seen it happen. I do know that people can get very possessive if you've had one conversation, that they can think, oh my gosh, I thought that you were my person. So that's when you have a conversation about, gosh, I'd like to get to know you better. And let's see if we have things in common. Let's see if we want to spend some time having coffee or going for a walk. And that you work up to, yes, I'd like to have a committed monogamous relationship. I'd like to not date anybody else, because people do start assuming things. And yes, that is a problem.
Yeah, the thing about this one that makes it interesting is that we've talked in previous episodes about where you want to go to meet singles. So you like join groups to do certain things, if it's hiking or animal welfare, whatever it is. In a way, it's kind of the same thing, because you're choosing to be in small group environments, or at least fairly small group environments, where you might have common interests with other people. Well, what if your perfect partner was there? It's not. I mean, living next door, yes, it's geographic is one thing, but the reality is there are environments we put ourselves in where there is a finite number of people. If we meet somebody within that group and it doesn't work out, do we avoid that group now? Do we not go out with them? So, yes, as you said about the whole the teenage angst and all the upset and the immature reactivity to not having what you want. Ideally, we've grown beyond it. And if you haven't, talk to us, we'll help you with that. but I want to say to that is also that it is a sense that oftentimes we pass each other in life, and if we decide we want to dalliance with somebody and have some fun with them, and then move on after that, that's feasible. Not always easy for you to do, because some people's emotional maturity has room to grow. Let's be clear about that. But I was thinking, so because like my spiritual community I belong to, which is, it's many thousands of people over the country, but in terms of, look at locally, maybe I'll see maybe 200 or 300 people on a Sunday. So it's a fairly small community, smaller than that building is for a start. And if I go with somebody, and I've had relationships with women over the last 30 years I've been there. So I've been there for a long time. It's not I've been there recently, but over a span of 30 plus years, I've had more than one relationship with somebody who used to go there. And looking back, I recognize how it was getting easier as I got more mature, more wise, more aware, to not have a grudge against seeing them when they walk in the door after we broke up, because the feeling is there. Yeah, it's going to be hurt feelings, or regrets, if only, what if, all that sort of stuff comes up. But the thing is that it didn't stop me from being willing to explore and to look, because if you really are clear about wanting a healthy relationship, ideally you're looking independent of location. So you're not tied to, they have to be this place or that place, or I'm not interested, or I can't do it because this might happen. You really got to look at what is your maturity about what relationship means to you. And if the environment really is, if it's dependent upon the environment you're in, what does it say about your choices? Anyway, it's a long field, go, please.
Oh, I think that maturity is really going to be the baseline about this conversation, because I remember when I had my event planning company, and especially when a third of my business was weddings, and I had one wedding where there were all the parents had been divorced and remarried. And the way that I handled it when it came picture time, I said, anybody that has any parental relationship to these two people, come and be part of this picture. And I'll help you sort out where you're all going to stand. And you only have to stand here for this one big picture and smile, because you love these two people. You all love these two people. We're not talking about the rest of the people in the picture. And they actually started laughing because I called it out. Right. And at one point, all these people tended to love each other at some point. They all got married to somebody here at one point, and they started laughing because I said it out loud, this elephant that was in the room. And it was really refreshing when people really were getting along, that they said, oh yeah, we were good then, and then we weren't, but now we found somebody that was better, and we're all doing just fine. So it was really kind of funny to have people say out loud, oh yeah, we really figured out how to get along better. My parents said they were much better friends once they got divorced, and all three kids agreed.
Yeah. And that happens. And so that comes back to maturity absolutely is the key value, because it's so tempting to become the victim and the poor me. It's like, oh, I'm so wounded and you did this to me and all that sort of stuff. And maturity does require you to step up and become accountable, and to be self-aware enough to notice when you're on course or off course, or when you're upset and not upset. So that when if the inevitable happens, if you're in a relationship that doesn't last, doesn't work out, I'm not saying it's never for everybody, but that is a situation where you have a relationship that doesn't work out, that you can be mature enough to realize that what happened was you had some time together, and as you said about your parents, being better friends after your relationship than during the relationship. If you hold that space for the person you were with, you might find it gets easier to be friends with them and okay in the same environment without going, oh my God, I can't be in the same place as them, or it's going to be, over. Life's going to suck. You got to grow up.
And going back to where you said, when you meet somebody in a place that you enjoy being there, how nice to know that you already have that in common, that you could enjoy this activity together, even as friends and maybe as more than friends. And to then say, couldn't you still go enjoy that thing, even if it turns out that as you got to know each other better, it turned out you just weren't each other's people? It's not that either of you are bad people. See, that's the thing. Sometimes you have to, in order to break up, both of you have to turn the other person into a bad person. And that's not necessarily right. I mean, sometimes somebody turns into a bad person. It's just that it turns out that you're not each other's person, and that you go back to saying, but I liked you well enough to want to have coffee with you and to start seeing you more. And we did some fun things together. But as we got to know each other better, it turned out didn't fit together in a way that we want to spend a lifetime together. How important is that? That is very important to learn. And why people get so upset about it, I think, is because they skip the steps, like we talked about last week, of the getting to know you part, and they get all chemical and they get all lustful and they have sex too early, and now they're feeling all committed, but then they go, oh, but there's this thing that turns out it's not going to work out, and then there's this huge upset, and then they're really mad, one or both of them, and then they really feel like they can't go back, or then they're oh so mad that they're now with somebody else. But you don't want them with you, or they don't want to be with you. Even if you want them with you, they don't want to be with you. Then how good that they went off to be with somebody else, because it frees you now to find your person.
Yeah.
So maybe don't go to that thing for a little while you heal yourself. But if it's something you enjoy, please go back.
Exactly. The challenge in what people do is they have this immature wiring that if they break up, it's not fair if the other person finds love first. There's that paradigm. Yeah, exactly. There's that thing about, they break up with somebody and it's like, how dare they find somebody better? And that becomes the whole thing about, and it's really petty, and it is very basic. So the choice point becomes, are you willing to be big enough and strong enough to wish them well on their journey? And maybe if you're in that sort of position where you go, I'm so glad they're dealing with them instead of me now, because it can be that way as well. Just to be transparent, because I had that experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's a place inside that you don't start falling off your own integrity because you want to be in resentment, regret, upset, hurt feelings, judgment, all that stuff. Because in some ways, if you really are mature and conscious, seeing them as somebody else could be the biggest gift they could have given you. Because it does mean you're now free, as you said, to choose somebody else, because you're not hooked into some old paradigm. So even though you see them where you spend your time, the environment or the community or whatever population you spend your time that you love being in, you look at them and you go, bless them, they're on their way, they're doing their own thing. I can now do what I want to do and meet somebody better. I got lessons, and we talked about this in previous shows about the lessons you learn going with the next relationship. This could be the biggest gift. But again, as we said already in the show more than once, it takes maturity.
And to really see who they are and accept who they are, and why it might not be working for you. Because I was talking to a client yesterday, and we were talking about there's this thing and what's really good about him, and then these things that aren't good for her, that are still fine about him, but not good for her. And that it's really important for him to find the person that this is good for the other person, and that she needs to find somebody that has these things that she likes about him and has very different the things that he doesn't have that would be right for her. And right. I could tell she finally landed. She really heard that part. And if you can get to that place, then when you see them again at this organization or where you live, you go, oh, right. I really remember the good parts, but there's this part, it doesn't work for me. So it's really okay that we're not together, because it's easy to pine for the good parts and forget the parts that didn't work for you. But if you keep remembering both, and these are the parts that didn't work for me, but it keeps reminding you of what does work for you. And it reminds you to keep looking for that, and that this person is not that, and keep looking for what is. It helps you say goodbye and let go. And then it's not so painful to see them frequently if you're going to live in the same building, and regularly if you're going to be part of the same organization.
And as you said earlier also about with your parents, again, it's like the thing may happen that you might discover that you end up being better as friends than you were in a relationship. And so seeing them more frequently can actually build a friendship that you never knew you had before, because you did jump in too early into the sex and everything else that didn't work out. So there are benefits to being around that person even after the relationship, if you're willing to look at it that way. And yes, as you said, to see the good and the bad, to see all of the whole thing, because you want to see the whole picture, because it is so tempting to either pine after the good stuff that happened or spend all your time judging the bad stuff that happened, and never both. So having a full spectrum picture to see everything and being willing to see it from a holistic view, for want of a better word, gives you more chance to see that person as they really are, and then choose what you then see from them as what works for you and what doesn't work for you. It's like each relationship, ideally, this is a big skill teaching, by the way. Each relationship ideally is going to be a teaching point for you to know what works, what doesn't work. So you use each relationship as a building block for the next one. And so if you can see cleanly and clearly through the lens of this person to see where they are, the good stuff and the bad stuff, the green flags and the red flags, if you can put it that way, in those terminology, then you'll have a choice point to say, okay, that's what I realized I had then. So if I take away the red flags and have the green flags, where do I want to look next time? So it almost gives you inspiration for your next choice.
It really helps you flesh out your list, because the initial list that you make out about what you've seen that you can't have, and then you keep using that to create the list of what you have to have. And then each new person that you meet, whether it's just for coffee or a walk, and you now learn, oh my gosh, yes, I'm confirming I want that. And oh, there's this new thing that showed up that I didn't want. What am I going to add to the list that I have to have? It keeps you have that fresh list, so that you keep looking for only the things that you have to have, so that each encounter that you have with these people that live in your building, and you pass every day at the mailbox or in the elevator or in the parking garage, and these people at these organizations that you're going to keep going to regularly, or an exercise class, or, an activity, that you keep sorting and going, oh gosh, look at what they do. I want more of that. Or, oh my gosh, look how they act. What would I want instead? And keep refining your list. So the more contact you're having with these people that are in your sphere are going to keep helping you refine your list.
Right. That is.
Use it as an archaeological dig, right?
There you go. Yes. And I want to talk a lot more about what if it is your perfect partner, then what do you do? We'll do it after the break, because I know we've got a break coming up shortly.
Perfect. So yes, just before we go to our break with our sponsors, Barry and I'd be happy to tell you if any of this is resonating with you. If you said the same thing, we'd be happy to have a chat with you. So the way to reach me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of my screen and you'll find a questionnaire called What's Holding You Back from Love. You click on that and you'll have 10 brief questions to answer, that where you are and where you'd like to be. It'll then give you access to my calendar. You can schedule a complimentary conversation at your convenience. You can also send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And Barry, tell people how to reach you.
Similar to Christine, I have a website you can go to. It's so amazing these modern times we live in. You go to my website, which is barryselby.com. On my home screen at the top of the page, there's a similar link where basically you click on the Let's Chat button. That takes you to my calendar with also a form you fill out, which is basically 12, 13 questions that really help you get clear, or I should say, tell me what's going on so I get a sense of what you're dealing with. Then you can have my calendar, schedule a complimentary conversation. It's 20 minutes. We talk together with Zoom, unless you have to use phone, but we'll try to do Zoom is ideal, because then I can see you and know more about you. And basically then I can see, first of all, how I can help you, but also if we want to work together, because that's the thing. It's not about you have to work with me. So none of this is like pushing you towards anything you want to do. It's like you just get to choose and decide in the moment. So schedule a conversation with me. That's definitely recommended. Or if you want to send me an email directly, you can send one at barry@barryselby.com and let me know what's going on.
Perfect. And now we're going to take a short break, and you'll hear from both of our sponsors, the National Widowers Organization, a wonderful organization that supports people that have lost a spouse or a loved one, and also our lovely new streaming network.com. And we'll be right back with more Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry.
See you in a moment.
The National Widowers Organization is a men's grief network. Our website serves as a virtual toolbox of free resources for men coping with the death of a loved one, whether a spouse, parent, a child, or lifelong friend. Our goal is to bring men together and arm them with as much information as possible to get through a devastating time in their lives. The NWO has a team of bereavement specialists and fellow widowers to help support you. You are not alone. For more info, go to nationalwidowers.org.
Thank you again to our wonderful sponsors. And we're back to Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. And today we're talking about what if your perfect partner lived next door? And Barry left you a teaser at the beginning of the commercial. And I want to jump in and say one other thing before he gets to that.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest challenges I hear constantly about dating apps is most people, they find geographically undesirable. They're hours drive away or a plane ride away, and here's turning down people that could be next door. I just had to point that out.
I was about thinking about that too, just the insanity of like, well, they're too far away. Oh, but now they're too close. What do you want? So
human beings are very funny.
Yes, it's very amusing. But the thing is, and I don't live in a 500-person apartment building, so I think in terms of living in the same neighborhood or on the same street, that sort of next door, because there's a different experience than just being in the apartment building. But the idea being is if you meet somebody who lives that close to you, I mean, first of all, let's go to the simple plus sides. First of all, it's a lot less commute. Secondly, you probably use a lot less gas to drive there. And third, you pretty much can just walk over and see if they're home or not. You don't have to worry about like texting and seeing if they can meet up in 2 hours. They might be, and you can walk together in the neighborhood. I mean, there's so many good pluses right at the bat. Just the simple logistics that make meeting someone who's local and close to you a very positive experience. Now, it's about what if the perfect partner lived next door? What if your divinely appointed partnership was actually living, within 50 yards of you? How would that change your life if you just thought about that for a second? I mean, just not saying that you've got to look for them, but just consider the idea that what if the person you're supposed to be with was that close to you? How would it make you feel?
Such a good point, Barry, because often the objections that I hear about people that live, hours of driving or flying, gosh, I really want somebody that we can just go out to dinner at the drop of a hat or pop over each other's house and watch movies or cook dinner. So then when I started hearing this from more than one person about, but gosh, I'm concerned that if we started getting involved, then we were close, that now we couldn't go back to that same thing. And I thought, I think people aren't listening to what they're saying. And I think that that's part of the challenge because dating is very emotional. We don't make generally intellectual decisions. We tend to make more intellectual about having a car. Maybe there's some emotion, and more intellectual about having a job. Maybe there's some emotion. But generally dating, we think a lot with our heart and our emotions because it involves our heart. So my suggestion always in the beginning is to stay from the neck up. Don't involve anything from the neck down, at least in the very beginning parts. When you're first looking on the dating apps or when you're joining organizations and when you're first talking to somebody, keep your emotional investment to a zero, no matter how cute they are, what their profile says, or your first couple conversations in texting or your first conversations on the phone. Certainly, if you haven't met in person, do not get all excited emotionally about this person, because you really don't know energetically how it's going to feel to be with them, which is why it's such a benefit to meet people out in the wild, or organic, as people are using nowadays, in an organization or in your building, or at, a dinner where there's other singles that are there.
Mm-hmm.
And to not go because down the road you might decide that you're not each other's person. It's really kind of putting the cart before the horse and eliminating a whole group of people that even you could just be friends with if you don't go.
And we talked in last week's episode, or episode before, about even if the person you meet isn't the one you want to be with, they may know somebody.
Yeah.
And so the other part can happen from this too is if, for example, your perfect partner's best friend lived next door to you. Just to say that one, there's an option too, because maybe there's it's funny because I remember this is going back about a year ago. A neighbor down the street used to have Sunday night musical gatherings. Just friends in the neighborhood would walk over and do music together in his house. So it was quiet, wasn't bleeding through the whole street. But he told me to come over one day because one of his wife's best friends was there, and she thought she could match for me. She wasn't, but it was like that was the idea. So the idea being that if you get invited to something in the neighborhood because there's a neighborhood party going on, or friends are doing something where there may be somebody there, not necessarily live there. That was weird. The audio come in. That basically there was somebody who is a friend of the person who lived there. That if you didn't meet them, you didn't go there, you wouldn't meet them. So it's not necessarily so much as your perfect partner lived next door, but what if your perfect partner lived was connected to the person who lived next door? So it doesn't hurt, and this is just a global thing, to make friends with people around you.
It's really true. I've had some groups where they've met to go to the movies out at the theater, or they knew each other well enough that they had a movie party at their house. And we were allowed, to bring a friend. And what was also fun was to ask the people there, well, what other things are you involved with? And you might enjoy going there, because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know what fun activity you could just join in and take part with. But if you eliminate, oh gosh, I can't do things that are close to my house in case we have a falling out, you really are shooting yourself in the foot. You're eliminating some geographically close possibilities. It really is something if you stay up here, you'll kind of chuckle at yourself about, oh, I guess that is what I'm doing if I am saying one thing and doing another. I want somebody that I could be spontaneous with. Why am I not looking closer to home?
In fact, let me throw this one on the table as well, just to consider. What if the person next door is somebody you think you'd be a good partner with, but you don't know for sure? When you're on a dating app, you've got to spend a lot of time getting to know the person before you can meet up and then get to know their personal, preferences, habits, and everything else. The person next door to you has bumper stickers and things on their car, or signs in the window, or you have conversations, you discover their political views are different from yours, or religious views are different from yours. It's much easier in a way to find that information out because they live next door to you. So both perfect partner and elimination process can be very complete and easy when it's just a convenient conversation, because you see them every morning, every night when you come home from work, or go out in the daytime or the weekends. The person next door could be a source of information for you. So you get to know, well, I like the way they look, but now I know what they think about. Not so much. But it's easy. Whereas with a dating app, you're also committing to something. You're going to meet somebody and find out more about them and discover, we don't fit. So effort-wise, next door is actually easier.
Mm-hmm. And joining things at your local community center, at the senior center, then you will meet people that live in your neighborhood. And that way you will see, oh gosh, I didn't know they lived here. Because it used to be, we did more community things. We did more things that involved our neighbors. And now often people just, come home and go in the garage and shut the door and, order everything on Amazon. So going to something in your community, getting involved in your community, with whether it's political or something that has to do with the schools or something that has to do with animals, then you would get more involved with knowing who your neighbors are and what kind of things they're doing as far as activities. There's a lot of neighbors where they do, cute little parades, or they do trash pickup. Like if you live at one of the beach cities here in California, they do trash pickup a few times a year, and I have met the most interesting people out picking up trash. I mean, from every walk of life, I've met people picking up trash at the beach. So if you will not eliminate people in your general 10-mile radius, you'd be amazed at how you might find somebody that's very dateable.
Yeah, we talked in previous shows about finding places to volunteer and do things and make good use of your time. We might meet people. Well, that's the other part too about someone that's local to you. You know, we have, where I live in my neighborhood, we have block parties twice a year, one for Labor Day, one for July 4th, and we've become, you know, I'd see neighbors around the block and we wave at each other, we say hi to each other, we talk to each other, and those gatherings made it easier because it's like we actually had time, like the time was intentional to actually connect with each other, make friends, and be friends and know each other. And so I'm not saying it's the case where you live and what's always going to happen, but if you have people close to you geographically, again, it may not be your partner you're going to meet there, but they might know somebody who might be your perfect partner. So make friends, connect, build community, build connection. It's almost like we should do that more in life in general anyway, because we've become such a screen-facing population and we don't know each other well, and we get so divided politically, it's hard to build friendships. So take the time to get to know your neighbors and people around you, because you don't know what positive things can come out of it, including possible partnership.
And I think I know I've mentioned it on something, but it was a really long time ago, so I'm going to mention it again. For people over 50, it's really important to have somebody that knows you wake up every day. If you're living alone, it's really kind of nice. I have friends who they open their blinds. Everybody watches. There's a person that watches the 3 houses around them, and somebody watches the 3 houses around them. I set this up 3 years ago with my sister-in-law, who actually lives in another state, but I text her a funny little meme every day about the day. So she knows, and she pays attention that if I don't, sometimes I get busy and forget that I open my eyes that day. And so if you get to know your neighbors and you kind of look out for each other, if you need something, it's not like you're going to have to ask a stranger now. You know, I fell and I can't get up, or like I have a neighbor who she needed some boxes moved around in her garage, and I've been working out, so I was happy to go help her the other day. And we've known each other for a while, and she didn't feel weird asking me. But you know, we all live with garages, and I don't know lots of the people that live here anymore since I moved back. So it's a nice thing to say, gosh, I'd love to just have somebody, could I just check in with you? Or would you be fine checking in with me? We could just every day, just send a text or open your blind. And it's just a really nice way to know your neighbors and they know that you're caring about them. Or, you know, gosh, could you pick up my newspaper? I'm going to be on holiday. Because people used to do that a lot, and I don't know that people are doing it as much now. And I think people go, oh, yeah, I guess I don't know the people next door. They just moved in, or I just moved in. So just something to think about when you are over 50, to know that somebody notices. If you fell down and you couldn't get up and you don't have a life alert thing, that somebody would know. I think it's important.
I think it's important too. It's interesting because I look around and realize it is very isolating for a lot of people, even though we live in the same neighborhood, even the same buildings. I remember when I lived in apartments, how, you know, I almost would wish I could meet the other people, but I didn't want to knock on doors. It didn't feel comfortable. So I would basically just hope I meet people in the hallways or in the parking structure. And so realizing that it's not something that's top of mind for most people, there may be a societal issue much bigger than the reach of this podcast. But the idea being is that to have community connection, resource support, just having community connection around you can be such a positive thing. Yes, romance on top of that is definitely a bonus. So I know we're talking about the show is what if your perfect partner lived next door, but what if your community was next door and it would be a resource for you for more than just a partner? So this is becoming a PSA suddenly.
Well, loneliness is an epidemic. They've talked about it on the news and in the newspaper. So just so that you know your neighbors' names, and that if you needed something, you knew you could reach out to somebody. One of my neighbor next door, we've talked, briefly, we know each other's name, and all of a sudden she was on vacation and she thought she had held a package, and she said, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be in front." I said, "I'm fine. I brought it in. I kept it for a week." And then we met and said hello when she got back from her trip. I mean, it's nice that you could have somebody to ask.
Yeah.
And so having a conversation ahead of time, what my brother did when they moved in, he had not put in his fruit trees yet, but there were all these mature fruit trees around. So they went around and introduced themselves to the new neighbors. And he said, "I like to bake. So if you want me to come pick some of your apples and stuff, I'd be happy to return." And they said, "Sure." And so then they come and plow my brother's driveway, and he returns their apples and stuff with baked goods. And it's the whole neighborhood just waits in bated breath for my brother's wonderful baking. And then they get their driveway plowed. How nice is that?
That's pretty spectacular. Yeah. I mean, this is community building, really, what it comes down to. And yes, to have the ulterior motive to meet the love of your life once you're doing it, yeah, may be okay. But what if you do as a side effect, suddenly have community friendships, network of people around you who can provide you with a lawnmower or with a network connection to how to fix your computer, or you can help somebody else with plumbing. It's like all these things we do in life. We've been trained, unfortunately, over the last decade or so to look for the Yelp reviews or to go on Google and search for it, or other places too. We don't have Yellow Pages hardly anymore, and we don't have network connections like it used to. And so maybe this is a chance to remember that your neighbors can be your resource. They can be your network. They can be your connections, whether it's for romance or for business or for services or whatever it is. So to take heart that you can build community where you live, and yes, maybe find your perfect partner next door, is a different perspective for some people.
And you can ask your neighbors if they know single people.
Absolutely. Or single groups.
You never know who they know.
Yeah.
So I hope that this has piqued your interest of the keep looking close to home as well as far away. I mean, I have a number of clients that have met people they have to fly to see each other. But if you were thinking, gosh, I don't want to date somebody close by because maybe we might break up and then I can't go there, please think about putting that aside, because it has been a big conversation lately, and Barry and I knew it was important to address it. And we'd be happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you. And it's like a first meeting. We both get to decide, you, Barry and I, and the caller, whether or not we're a match for each other. Just like all of our conversations we have, nobody knows till you talk to the other person whether or not we would want to work with you and you would want to work with us. But how would you know unless you reach out? And we both offer this complimentary conversation. Why wouldn't you take advantage of it, right?
Right.
I don't know why. So if you would like to take advantage of having a complimentary conversation with me, go to my website, please click on the What's Holding You Back questionnaire. You get a complimentary conversation by clicking on that and going to my calendar and scheduling a conversation that's convenient for you. Or you can send me a personal private email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. On that homepage of my website, you can also go to the top and click on my ebook. It's free. It's filled with dating advice, and I'd love to hear what helped you and anything you'd like me to include, because I've been working on my 2.0 book. You can also join my mailing list, and each week you'll receive a replay of this wonderful podcast that Barry and I do. Also at the bottom of the page are all my icons for my social media of Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube. And if you click on YouTube, Barry and I are getting very close to 260 podcasts that we've done, filled with lots and lots of helpful dating information for all of you. And Barry, tell people how to reach you.
Indeed. So similar to Christine, I have a website and I've got social media. So my website again is barryselby.com. And besides the button at the top of the screen, which you can get in my calendar, at the bottom of the homepage of my website, you can click on that, or you can click opt into my email list. So you can become a subscriber where I send out weekly emails with a replay of the show, plus other things I'm working on, new invitations, offers, etc., etc. In the middle of the screen is my newest offering, what's been out for a while now. I have 2 quizzes I created, or should say 2 assessments I created. One of them is a relationship readiness assessment. And if you click on the button at the middle of the screen, it'll take you to that quiz, which you can take it and go through it. Or you can go directly to it at barryselby.com/quiz. That basically gives you a chance to look at your dating readiness. How ready are you for a relationship? What's in the way? What's working? What isn't? And basically, you get a chance to look at it, and you give you a score, which sounds crazy, but it gives you actually a score, a percentage of how lined up you are, and you'll get an email with which category you fall into, an invitation to talk to me as well. The second assessment, which is not actually clickable as a button yet, you have to go directly to it, which is barryselby.com/self-quiz. And if you haven't figured it out by now, it is a quiz about yourself. So that is a self-assessment or a self-relationship assessment, meaning how's your relationship with yourself? How much do you trust yourself? How strong are you? How confident are you? What's your self-confidence like? Do you take care of yourself? Do you respect yourself? All these different things. That quiz has a downloadable PDF with it, which is a whole bunch of information, tips and guidance, tools you can use in your life. So I recommend taking that quiz because, first of all, you should always know about your relationship with self before you have a relationship with somebody else. So I'm kind of biased about that one. But it'll give you some opportunity to really look at your own stuff. In addition, my book is on my website, which is on the book page, which is my best-selling book, 50 Ways to Love Your Lover. You can get to the link from that page to get the ebook version or the Kindle version or the Amazon version. At the top of that page, there is a audio recording of two AI-voiced review of my book, which is two very, they sound like public radio voices. They're very smart people reviewing my book in great detail in about 12 minutes. So if you're not sure if you want to get my book, listen to the audio first. And if you like what they say, then get my book. Very simple. Social media-wise, you can find me on all the platforms under Barry Selby, except for two, which I'll tell you about. So you find me as Barry Selby on YouTube, where also the replays of the show go and all my other videos, 1,500 plus videos on my on my YouTube channel. So Barry Selby on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, and on Blue Sky. And the two places it's different is on Instagram and Threads. That's the real Barry Selby because my original account got hijacked. So you find me as the real Barry Selby on Instagram and Threads. And I think that's everything.
And Barry and I are so grateful that you watch our podcast. We're live here on the Pacific Coast at 1 o'clock and on the East Coast at 4 o'clock and all the times in between. And if you want to watch the replay, you can see it on Roku and on YouTube. But you can take us with you wherever you want to go. Right, Barry?
Absolutely. Our podcast, our show is now on the platforms. Yes, audio podcasts. So if you listen to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts, look for Let's Talk Dating, Christine and Barry. You can listen to us everywhere you go, and you can binge listen if you want. There's 250 something episodes out there and getting close to 260. And so you can basically transform your life through listening to our audios. So take us with you wherever you go, and you might discover you'll get tips and guidance that will just change your next dating experience.
And we'd be so grateful if you would like and subscribe and share it with your friends and write a review. And We'll be back next week with another interesting conversation on Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry.
We'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves.